Are you worried about electromagnetic fields at Disneyland and how they might affect your implantable cardiac device? When thinking about EM fields at Disneyland, two of the first things that came to my mind were the metal detectors at the security screening point and the launch system on rides like the Incredicoaster. So after seeing some comments on some blogs and some message boards, but nothing really, concrete or anything that would take as fact, that were saying you should avoid, going through the metal detectors, you should avoid riding the Incredicoaster because you don't want to be around magnetic fields with your device. I decided to do some research on my own. I figured this is something that I could figure out, whether or not I should ride it or not. And so I started with my device's website. The manufacturer puts up a public-facing website that has some information. And after some digging around, I found some technical specifications that says my device shouldn't be exposed to magnetic fields greater than 1 millitesla, which is equal to 10 Gauss. And what that would do is it would trigger a protected mode on my pacemaker so it wouldn't be damaged by the electromagnetic field. And it would put me into default program, which means it would pace me at 90 beats per minute until it could be reset. Now, in my specific situation, I would know if I was being paced, dual chamber paced, because I can feel it. Usually, when my pacemaker's in use, it's when I'm sleeping at night. My heart rate drops, and I have complete AV node block, which means the signal doesn't go from the top chamber to the bottom chamber to tell it to beat. So I've had some times in the past where it would pace me and I didn't really need it during the day, and I would know about it. So if one of these events happened, I would definitely know about it. On their website, I also found a list of common items that produce electromagnetic fields, like motors, different things with motors, and it told me how far away I should stand from the toaster or how far I should keep my cell phone, 6 inches away from my device when using it. But that wasn't too helpful when trying to figure out whether or not I should ride a roller coaster. The manufacturer's website did provide some helpful information about the security checkpoint. They had a whole travel section, specifically like air travel, when you go through security screening. They said that going through the walkthrough metal detectors were not a problem for my device. The magnet wasn't strong enough to have an effect. But one thing it did have a warning about is the handheld metal detectors. It said if for some reason you go over for secondary screening, you need to let the person with the wand know that you have a pacemaker and that they need to keep that wand away from it. And if that means some additional screening or like pat down, or you have to show them that you really do have it and you have your ID card, that's what they suggested on the manufacturer's website. So that kind of put my mind at ease about going through the security, the bag check at Disney. And I wanted to let you know that I have gone through the security checkpoint at Disney many times, and I haven't set it off, never had a problem. So I kept doing some research about EM fields at Disney, and the public-facing website for Disneyland doesn't really have any information or gets very specific about it. And I even looked at the Incredicoaster's manufacturer's website, but they had very limited information, nothing technical enough to answer whether or not I should ride that. So my next thing was, well, this is something that we can know and measure, so what if I buy some kind of meter and have my wife ride it, and we'll check the reading before I go on and make sure it's under the 10 Gauss limit that my device requires. But and I thought about maybe some kind of Faraday cage shirt for my clothes, so I could keep the EM field out and so it wouldn't affect my pacemaker. But when I started looking on the internet for EM field detectors or meters or some kind of clothing to shield it, all I found was shady websites that were selling like bogus RF sensitive people, foil hats and underwear with silver lining, and none of it seemed legit to me. And they did have cheap meters on there, but right along with the meters that people were saying they were using to measure around their house, there's ghost meters and other kind of stuff that it just didn't seem legit to me. So I looked on an actual scientific equipment manufacturer website, and they did have legitimate detectors for EM fields, but they were about $1,000, and that kind of discouraged me from either trying to find some kind of clothing to shield me, or to actually buying a meter by myself. So I started to think about it a little bit more, and I figured in the years since the theme park had been open, somebody would have had to have gone on that ride and not realized that the launch system uses linear induction motors and strong magnetic field to launch the train. And I haven't heard of anybody dying from it. So what I decided to do was email Disney Disability Services and let them know I had a pacemaker. My device manufacturer suggested that I don't, that it shouldn't be exposed to anything over 10 Gauss or 1 millitesla, and this is the response I got back from them. They told me that although they were unable to give an exact list of levels for each attraction at the theme parks, that measurements around the Disneyland Resort showed levels to be below 1 Gauss or below 0.1 millitesla, and that's below the level of concern for most device manufacturers of pacemakers, cochlear implants, and insulin pumps. So that seemed to, pretty much confirm that even though there are fields around the park, that they weren't strong enough to affect my device. And then I went on to read, the only rides at Disneyland or California Adventure that use electromagnetic mechanisms are the Incredicoaster, Big Thunder, and the Teacups. Those last two attractions on the list were pretty surprising to me. I didn't take the time to think about it. Just like the scenario I was thinking about the Incredicoaster, somebody must have ridden that without knowing that it used electromagnetic devices. That's what happened with me on the Teacups. I didn't know they did that for braking, and also on Big Thunder. It just hadn't occurred to me that those used it, because unlike the Incredicoaster, which it's kind of obvious that it's using some kind of magnetic force to launch the thing, it's not so obvious in those other rides, and I'd already been on them several times with no ill effects. So now I was confident that I could go back to Disneyland and ride the Incredicoaster once it opened, because I would be exposed to no more than 1 Gauss or 0.01 milliteslas, which is a fraction of what my device is designed to withstand, which is 10 Gauss or 1 millitesla. So I could go back with confidence and ride that ride without being worried about the electromagnetic fields being generated by it. So if you have concerns about EM fields in your devices at Disneyland, go ahead and check your device manufacturer's website and talk to your doctor and check with both of those to make sure. But as long as they say your device can handle 1 Gauss worth of EM field, you should be good to go when going to Disneyland. And as soon as I go back and ride the Incredicoaster, I'll go ahead and post a video and let you know if I survived.
Subscribe now. Resistance is futile.